Okay, quick music disclaimer here. I do not own the rights to this music, which belongs to the rightful owner, who is the intoxicating mind of Dr. Frankenstein. So he made my intro and my outro, and I hope you guys enjoy. Check them out on Spotify and YouTube, and no copyright infringement is intended. Have a good day.
Clear choice of good versus evil, of right versus wrong.
Twisted Tales.
If you like paranormal, true crime, cryptids, or anything else weird, check out the Ouch Was That a Ghost podcast brought to you by your host Liz. You can find Ouch Was That a Ghost on Spotify, Apple, or any other audio platform. New episodes drop every Thursday.
Alright, welcome back to the show, folks. It's very cool that you guys decided to tune back in tonight. It's very appreciated. Now, I'm going to finish up part 2 of our Kenley Matheson episode. So I know it's been a few episodes, but I was trying to get my shit together with this and trying to figure out where we left off last, and I'm going to try to pinpoint that here for you guys here. So I believe that we left off around the part where his sister had noticed that he hadn't shown up for some classes. This was starting to worry her about her brother Kenley. It was a calculus class that Kenley had missed going to, which was a little weird for him not to be seen anywhere around for a few days. Now, he would always touch base with his sister, tell her if he was going anywhere, heading out, whatever, right? It's not often that he wouldn't run anything by her or his family. Now, maybe, he was kind of stressing out about school, maybe he was laying low, something like that, right? But college life went on, and it was just a little out of character for him. Now, the stresses of class had increased, responsibilities, everything could catch up to a guy. Who knows? But college isn't the same for everybody, and taking a few days off to relax isn't something that's really uncommon or anything. It's okay to do this, right? Even the whole responsibility thing that I mentioned, I can't really see that bothering him too much. He was plenty responsible with a lot of things, like hard work being one of them. So, schoolwork wasn't going to bother this guy. And he literally grew up on a farm, too. So, that right there includes manual labor, the tree planting, everything like that. It's very tough. Even, growing up, he was a designated hockey player. He had to do a lot of things going like that, training and everything. And this whole little bit of college, like I said, it wasn't going to stop him, right? I know that for a fact. He had it in him to finish college. He had his sister with him for support, and that extra little bit of drive can help, get a guy through, right? Now, he was taking some pretty hard courses. He was doing just fine with them there, because time was passing on, and he was just aces, the whole way through, right? He's making good marks. So now the question was, where was Kenley at? Because this was on everybody's mind now. Where might have he wandered off to? Where might he have been taken to? Did he go away somewhere? Corkham's Island there, maybe he went over there to get away for a bit, right? I don't know, maybe he just met a girl here and he just kind of dipped out for a little bit. But Irene had spoke with the resident advisor at the time. This was Todd Barker. So she wanted to come in and check out Kenley's dorm room, because that's where he was last hanging out or whatever, right? And even Todd had shown some signs of concern. This was just a little odd, because he was all well, you don't know what you're gonna find when you go in there and shit like that. And I know he did feel a little sympathetic about it, because he ran all the floors in the tower or whatever, so he was looking after everything, right? Now, one thing here I just wanted to mention, when Todd expressed his worry for Kenley to Kyrene, why didn't he mention this, like, to anybody else a little earlier? Like, hey, I think this guy might be a little down or whatever. Can we, do like a mental health check or like just a little check on him or whatever, right? And I do get that college life is really busy, but if you're noticing something out of the ordinary, or you're worried about one of your friends or classmates, like I said, just go do a wellness check. Like, it doesn't take much to do. Anyways, Irene, like, she was in the dorm there, and she just looked like he stepped out for a moment here. Now, his clothes were there. There was some shower stuff and other toiletries. There was a passport there. So it didn't look like he was going off on an adventure or anything like that. But you want to go back and think, like, there weren't much things out of place, too. Like, all his necessities were pretty much still there, like bathroom toiletries and stuff like that. His passport was there, so it wasn't really going anywhere. And airline security and everything, like the rules and all that, they weren't really as strict back then in the day, so like maybe you could get through without having your passport available, whatever, right? And it's just something to think on, right? So after getting a hold of her parents here and telling them that Kenley was kind of missing, she was worried, things were going on, right? She didn't get a hold of her mom right away, so she contacted her dad. So her dad had drove up the very next day. This was September 24th of 1992. So Alan had went up to the Wolfville police station and then told them, about Kenley. So this here was officially reported around 6:30 p.m. that evening. So this is when Kenley was reported missing, was the September 24th. And just 2 weeks into college, like, Kenley just up and vanished. Now, his sister had last seen him that Sunday, and a buddy of Kenley's had seen him walking in town down by the bank. So that would have been that Monday. And there's been no activity on his bank account, no sight of him anywhere. And there are tons of theories surrounding this here, though. Like, I gathered up all these scenarios, wrote this for you here. So I just wanted to go like this here with that. So what had brought, like, the police's attention around was the search for his room and everything. Like, they found a little bit of hash, nothing major. I mean, he's a college student, right? They find way worse, right? It didn't look like there were any signs of a struggle. There was a blue Helly Hansen jacket that was missing, a pair of shoes, a Lakers hat, a pair of jeans were gone. There was a shaving kit, and like the other normal toiletries and bathroom stuff were still at his house here. In the garbage can in the dorm, they found like a little clipping, like somebody cut out an article here. That was for a Greenpeace ad. Now, since Kenley was reported missing, they didn't treat this case any other way. There were a lot of people here that thought maybe he'd just run away because he took off to another country because he traveled around a little bit before this, right? So like, oh, well, he's just a free spirit, and he probably just took off the stresses of college and all this shit, right? Now, he may have traveled, like, yeah, but like just to dip out and not make any mention of this to family or friends, this was something that Kenley honestly would never do. Now, police had talked to students and everything like that, knew him, his family, all that. Now, what happened with Todd Barker here? So they mentioned him because he was like the resident advisor. So they gave like the whole interview and everything here. Now, his story was when he had stopped by to give Kenley his residence papers or his documents, because he had to sign these for like his residence or whatever, like his tuition and everything was paid for and everything. Now, this was the Monday, September 21st, just sometime in the evening. And this was when that was reported. Now, police didn't tape off his room. No fingerprints were taken. There was no evidence taken from his dorm. And there was nobody that, like, checked out anything over the top, right? They had people in and out of there, even looking for clues, like anything out of the ordinary. They just didn't find it. So there was no indication that, this was a crime scene to them. There were no forensics done anyway. The most here that was done was just a few names taken on a notepad, and that was pretty much it. They found nothing really out of place, so not much could be done with it, right? It was more so like focused on where in the world that he might be. But instead of focusing on what had happened to him, like right here in Wolfville, they just checked around like every bus route, every airport here that was close. And they posted his disappearance on the TV and the radio. Now, every major airline here was checked out, but like you gotta think for 1 second, if they were looking for the specific name Kenley, they might not have found it, because as I mentioned in the first part here, he went back home to the Cape, and this was under an alias there. That was for that trip, right? So I'm not sure what the reason was behind that, but I mean, like, the guy took a flight, he gave a different name. Who's to say that he couldn't do that again, right? That's the way that they were looking at it, right? But whatever. There was a Chris guy here that had seen Kenley sometime before all this. Like, this was 4 days prior to when he went missing. Now, he had seen Kenley here. He offered him a ride because Kenley was walking around. Now, they had stopped at a liquor store here before heading back to Acadia. Now, this would have been September 17th in downtown Wolfville. Now, he's seen this guy at a Petrocan, so this is a gas station. Now, Kenley didn't really seem like himself around this time. He mentioned to Chris that he was out doing some laundry, and he had no laundry basket or a bag with him. He wasn't really talkative, so he kind of just kept his mouth shut, like kept to himself kind of thing. And that's all that he really remembers before dropping him off at school. So he's not sure if his demeanor had changed throughout that or anything like that, but he noticed that he was a little off. Now, there's some theories here surrounding the night of the party too that had just passed, or that was the Friday. Now, there was some speculation surrounding that something had happened to him because of his drunk actions that night. Like, maybe somebody got pissed off enough to do something about it. And he was hitting on some girls or whatever, right? So, like, maybe that kind of got a guy jealous or something, and he took revenge. Who knows? Now, maybe there was, like, some crazy sorority prank or anything like that. So, we're not sure about that. But, I mean, hazing was something that does go on. Like, it does happen. Like, assaults on campus happen. Like, little things here, like, got to be taken into consideration. And it's not just men that this happens to. Like, women can also face such dangers, too, of college life. Like, you don't know what kind of people are out there, right? Like, there's sexual assaults and stuff like that. But there was a tale here that Kenley might have crossed paths with a guy named Andrew Paul Johnson. So this fella here had been in the same area as Kenley. Now, he visited Corcomb's Island when he arrived up in Wolfville there starting college. So Kenley went to Corcomb's the same weekend as this guy. So he was in the same area with Andrew Paul Johnson and his girlfriend. Andrew is currently being incarcerated up in British Columbia. He had a couple run-ins with the law here at a time or two. And it was just for, like, crazy shit, too. Like, he had kidnapped a mentally challenged woman there. This was at one point up in rural BC. And police had found her locked in his car. And this was about 1997. One time he impersonated being a cop, trying to pick up two 12-year-old girls. And this guy here is just such a fuck that he had to be repeatedly denied release from prison. So this is the guy that was up in the area when Kenley had started going to Acadia. So they tried to, like, pinpoint this and try to make something of that, right? Because it is kind of suspicious, but, like, the way that this guy acted and the totally, like, different crimes that he did, I don't think that he had anything to do with it. But this guy did a lot of crimes in the 1980s, like some within the Halifax area. There was a few other parts of Nova Scotia. Now, he has a history of sexual violence against minors. Now, there was a former partner here. He ended up having some violence against. He ended up beating her. He was masturbating in public. He has been convicted of assaults, like forcible confinement, and also a string of thefts. Now, this is who they think might have played a part in Kenley's disappearance. Like, the date up here was September 11th and 12th, so that would have been the weekend. So Andrew was currently working up that way too. The couple were camping up at the Ovens campground. This is located at 326 Ovens Road. in Felton South. So this is a privately owned 180-acre reserve of just coastal forest. This is located on the Atlantic coast of Nova Scotia. And along this way here, there's like a lighthouse route. So this is near Lunenburg. Now this place offers up like woodland campsites, oceanfront sites, all that stuff. It's like just gonna guarantee that this is like the nicest on the old Atlantic coast here for like scenery and whatnot. Even during all like Cape Breton, like all throughout Cape Breton, there's really lovely scenery, there's ocean, there's everything else. And the distance between here and Corkham's wasn't far at all. Like you're looking at maybe a 14-minute drive. So that's about 16 kilometers. So that's the distance that this campground was from Corkham's. And just let me touch base in this area here quickly. This place brings thousands to the area each year. There's a famous sea caves around here, around the area. So like this is like due to the ocean and all the sea caves and everything, like this creates a tunnel sensation. So the caves here and all the waves can be like heard making sounds of like crashing and echoing and everything, right? So that's the deal with the whole famous sea caves. That was just my little factual piece in this general area here. One last thing, I guess. There was gold that was discovered here in this area too. This was back in 1861. But the whole gold rush thing didn't really last and nothing boomed. But it's still a good area to check out. So if you're in the area, I highly suggest going to check that out. Now, this here was found out by police, all the info about this Andrew guy here. Because during Kenley's investigation, it was brought up, so obviously police jumped to try to piece this whole puzzle together, right? They wanted to get a lead on the case, right? So, to me, I think this was all just coincidental. Like, maybe they did cross paths, maybe they didn't. Now, this Andrew guy here had a whole way about him. Like, totally weird vibe. Now, whether he had met up with Kenley or not, still remains a mystery here, but this was an avenue that they had to explore. Like, the thing is here with this guy, he preyed on young little kids. For him to have something to do with Kenley's disappearance, like, it didn't fit this guy's MO. He was just creepy as fuck. Like, he ended up just being in the same place, same time kind of thing, right? But it was something that needed to be investigated by police, just so they could cross that off the list. Now, Kenley here had been all over the world. Like, he'd been most places like that people only dream of visiting. Now, he had met hundreds of people, traveled thousands of kilometers. He hitchhiked up and back all around this great Canadian provinces. Like, he took his motorbike out, and not one thing had happened to this guy. And I read this part from an article here that Kayreen had told at one point here about Kenley. Now, it says here he got into dozens of cars with strangers, and nothing happened to him. He walked on the roads all through the United States, through Central America. He motorcycled back and forth across Canada, and he hitchhiked. And then he went to Acadia, and he disappeared without a trace within 2 weeks. Now, a couple years passed, and some things had changed with the whole case details here. Now, this revolved around our buddy, Todd Barker. So, he was now changing some information around with him with the story that he originally told police. So he changed the day around that he had seen Kenley. So he changed it to another day. Now he wasn't sure that if he'd seen him the day before or the day after. So with Todd changing his story here, originally he gave police info that he had last seen him on the Monday of September 21st. Then Todd had notified police and then changed this date to September 20th. So this would have been a Sunday. So the day before. Now, I'm not sure whether Todd became confused about the day or what have you. It's just an odd thing to do. Now, I checked that with Kayreen here. So with these new changes to the dates, this would make Todd not the last person to see Kenley. But another man here had last seen Kenley. This was an exchange student here. He was studying at the academy here. He had seen Kenley around the RBC Bank and downtown Wolfville. So this guy that knew Kenley, he was around school, actually. Like, he lived in the same floor as Kenley, so the same building. And he noticed that Kenley had passed down the hockey arena here, and then the stadium on the main street. And this was some time later, so the RBC whole bank thing, that would have been around the 2 p.m., 2:30 mark. Then he seen him sometime later here around like 5 p.m. Now, like I said here about Todd changing his story and everything, like, there could have been a reason behind it. There might not have been, but maybe it is genuine, who knows? But it's a pretty hard thing to overlook and not really think on, right? Like, as to why that he had did this so many years down the road, right? But I don't know. It threw a whole wrench in the whole case and everything, but you'd think, like, at a university with less than 4,000 graduates and a town of less than 5,000 people, that this place, of all places, was where our friend Kenley would just fucking disappear from. And that was the very last known reported sighting of him. Well, over the years there has been sightings of him, from several people, mind you, and this is on separate occasions. Because obviously people still care about this case, and why wouldn't they, right? Like, people have tried to help, give the family tips, I'm sure, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into this case, too. They share what they know, which is great, because, like, they try to get the family some help and everything, right? Now, there were a ton of other things going on here with this case, too, like the news coverage, the news articles, all this would be printed in the newspapers, the college papers, and anything just to get the word out to people, like, to see if anything would come up with this. Hopefully somebody might remember something, right? Now, I think, like, if it was a local person that went missing, like a person from Wolfville, they might have give a shit, but since so many students come and go out of here, because it is a college town, like, he wasn't local, so, I mean, it's not like people didn't care, but, like, it wasn't really looked at very, like, deep into. Now, some time had passed here, and the news clips played on the TV, like, you could hear it on the radio and whatnot, going to work and shit, and then the case would go cold for a bit here, like, there wasn't a lot of leads going on. Now, Kenley's belongings from the dorm here, these were all packed up and given back to the father and his girlfriend, the father, Alan, and he came up, picked this up like 2 months after Kenley had disappeared. Now, there was no police inventory done on Kenley's items, like, they were all just given back to him here. There were no pictures taken of his stuff, or like the room that he stayed in or anything. Like, all his memories and possessions were now just all sent back to Cape Breton. Now, tons of people thought that Kenley had just hopped on a bus or something, right? Or just took off on the Acadian Line's bus. Now, you can travel pretty easily on a bus too, like, very nonchalantly, but, like, it's a quick exit. It has many steps throughout here, like all these stops and everything, like connections to other buses in various communities. Now, a few months after here that he had went missing, an uncle of Kenley's was up in the Halifax area here. He was at the international airport. So he was walking through, and there was this bar there in the airport. He'd seen a guy sitting at the bar. He had a backwards hat, and he was sitting there enjoying a beer. Now, he ended up continuing walking on, but, like, all of a sudden he was like, I know this guy or whatever, right? So he said that in his head, and he ended up, like, backtracking kind of thing. So he went back to the bar to see if this guy was still there, and the guy left. There was like a mouthful of beer out of the bottle here. It was still cold, and this guy was nowhere to be seen. Now, the uncle here, knowing that Kenley had went missing, he ended up walking around the entire airport just to see if he could find this dude again. And unfortunately, he never saw him again. Now, August of 1993, there was a report made to police about a sighting of Kenley up in Halifax, Nova Scotia. This was up on Gottingen Street. Now, the report here was made by a buddy of Kenley's here. Now, these two knew each other from, like, way back, riding dirt bikes, from camping trips and whatnot with the families, because both families had went camping together at certain points of their lives. Now, he had a whole conversation with Kenley. He seemed to be okay. They caught up a little bit, and then they went their separate ways. He had saw a missing poster with Kenley's name on it, and he didn't know what to think because when all this had shaken down, he had no clue that his buddy had been missing at all. Now, this guy's name here was Ian Charles Stillwell. Now, even with all this new stuff here that police were like getting into here, they were no closer with any leads than they were the day that they were given this case. And it's kind of like as if this case got the old brush off kind of thing, right? Like it was set aside. But there's something else here, like psychics, sorry, that were contacted here by the family. Now, they were given their insights on everything here too. Like these folk here, they're sometimes also known as like psychic detectives. Now, they investigate crimes by paranormal psychic abilities. With police cases here and in the field, all this, missing persons or like murder cases they usually deal with. So they'll be in communication with spirits of the victims, or like they'll usually tell you like that the missing or presumed dead person are located at like some old dump site or near water or stuff like that. So this is like where they'll tell you like all their stuff. So they'll do what is called cold readings. So they're called that so because it's a set of techniques used by fortune tellers, psychics, or what have you here. Like, because this ends up like going on without prior knowledge. They try to obtain a great deal of information by analyzations of a person's body language. So they'll do this while conversating with the person. So they'll usually go by their age, their gender, their ethnicity, their religion, shit like that, and all like while throwing you a bunch of questions, right? So like they'll try to get like a feel from you, from your body language. Now, just taking stabs in the dark and stuff like that to see if they're heading in the right direction or not. Or like say there's an object of like meaning to the person, they'll take that item and try to get a connection from it. Like all those cool little things like that. Now, sometimes they mention certain areas here, and sometimes, but not all, these areas are checked by police. Like they'll either find a body around that general area that they're searching or whatever. Now, there was another little angle here that this case kind of went along over the years here, besides the psychics and everything. Now, there's been zero activity on Kenley's bank account over the years. This has been since 1992. There's been zero activity on it. And this is 32 years later and still nothing. Now, there was a little over like $4,000 that he had stashed away from tree planting. This was earlier in the season before he headed off to college. Now, he had his tuition all squared up at that time too. Like he was pretty much just living and learning, literally, to that effect. Like he had all his shit paid for, he worked hard, so why wouldn't you, right? And even the whole being drunk at the party thing, like everybody gets drunk. Everybody has a silly night sometimes. Everything was settled on that too, from what I've read here. Like the girls that he was chatting with, like surely they just knew he was drunk. He didn't mean anything by it, right? Like it's not like he overstepped anything. Like he did hit on a girl or whatever, and Buddy corrected him. So I mean, just like little things like that. I mean, it wasn't totally blown out of whack. I mean, there could have been someone that was pissed off, mind you, but I mean, this is life, and people get drunk, people get pissed off. But I mean, to get pissed off over some drunk stuff that maybe might have got carried away, maybe a fight ended up going a little too far. That's a possibility. I'm not saying this did happen, but I mean, it was also taken into consideration like there's tough little bars in that area as well. Like a lot of hard workers there. There's college folk. They're probably a little mouthy. I mean, what do you do, right? It's pretty much just Wolfville's just a college town, and it's got hard workers, right? So like you got your blue collar guys, you got college students. Not all bars are like this, but I mean, some people can't handle liquor, and they're gonna get in a fight or what have you, right? Now you throw in like some markets, some restaurants, and whatever like that, and that's like the whole town of Wolfville. Now, maybe something happened to him along like the walk from the college, maybe. Maybe he was like heading to class, he didn't make it, or heading from class somewhere and he didn't get to his destination. But like, why Kenley? Like, why fucking Wolfville? Why was this place, like, why did this have to be the last known location when he's been like all around this whole world, right? I don't get it. This guy had no other problems anywhere else. He goes to fucking Wolfville, and apparently all these problems arise, and he just disappears. I mean, I'm not saying that if his disappearance had happened, like, somewhere else, like, that would make everything okay or anything like that. I'm not bagging on Wolfville either. It's just a weird place to just up and vanish from. Like, I don't know. It's got a ton of people, like, coming and going. It's a very, very busy spot. But somebody definitely seen something, or perhaps like knows something as to why this had happened. It's just like maybe the amount of guilt will eat away at them. They'll come forward. I don't know, but something has to be done. Somebody's got to fess up sooner or later. Now, when Kenley was last seen here, his description goes as follows. So, his description was that he was 5'9", green eyes, brown hair, gold hoop earring located in his left ear. His weight was around $150, so 150 pounds. He had Levi 509 blue denim jeans, a slender build, and a nylon Helly Hansen jacket. And on his feet were a pair of brown loafers. So he could be used, could be using other aliases here, like Ken, Al, or Alan, because he usually goes by those names there. And he'll use those names sometimes as like different aliases or whatever. Now, even though like looking into the case here had begun to slow down over time, all through the years the family had been like searching for justice, hoping that somebody will come forward with some info, right? And it seemed that every time a lead would pop up, the family wouldn't get too much farther with it, right? There was just like a fucking little glimmer of hope here, and then it was just taken away. And that's bullshit. But the whole thing with like that Andrew Paul Johnson guy too, like when that was all brought up here, like Kenley's mom said like that was another dead end here. Like the weird thing here with that was even at one point, this was like a few months later, she ended up receiving a phone call. So Sarah McDonald here got a phone call wicked late in the morning hours that had woken her up like right away. Now the caller didn't say too much to her. The only thing said was, "You don't want to talk to me." And that was all. Like that was all that was said throughout this whole thing. Like I imagine all that like waking you up. You're trying to piece together the voice, thinking if it's Kenley, your son or whatever, right? Like this just woke you up from a dead sleep. Like the ringing of the phone's gonna throw you off. You know, you're trying to rack your brain around who was on the other end of that line. Now, that to me, like, these are a lot of things to go on in such a short span of time. Now, she did think it was her son, Kenley, of course, but could she say that for sure? No, she could not, unfortunately, say that, right? There was a police tracer that was installed on the line here, but since that's all been done, the caller has never called back, and to this day, the caller goes unknown. Now, it wasn't really easy for the family to go through all this either. Like, there was a lot of stuff here that I seen here about Kenley and Frosh Week. Like, I know he wasn't a fan of Frosh Week, but I did touch base on, like, some stuff I had around bullying and stuff like that. I touched on that subject with Kayreen, and, like, there was no time for any of that. She never saw anything like that either, but even that weekend, like she was away in Halifax, she came back, like Kenley was a little down, but maybe could have been just because he was hungover and whatever, right? But could something have happened with like a college prank or something? You never know, right? But there's definitely been like some criminal charges around the acts of hazing, like there's paddling and stuff like that. Like you toss in some alcohol abuse and sometimes shit can get pretty wild. Like, booze makes people reckless, right? They could be abducting you for some sort of hazing prank. Something could have been miscalculated or something like that. Who knows? But I'm not saying this had happened to Kenley or anything. I'm just digging out, like, a little fact of, like, college life here. Just that it can be crazy and just go on like that sometimes, right? But because sometimes like hazings and stuff like this will happen if you get into like a new sorority or what have you, right? Or like you get accepted into a frat and shit like that, right? Now all these possibilities surrounding like how the guy traveled here too, like he did all this on his own dollar, and whatever he wanted to take with him, he would just up and go, right? And traveling like for Canley, like he loved it. It was all that he pretty much lived for, right? Like he'd go here, he'd go to different destinations. Like he had a nice little environmental ways about him there. Like he cared about the environment. Just a great guy, right? And just because he traveled doesn't mean that he just left somewhere. Something happened to him. Like it just sucks. Like everybody thinks he just left and had run away or something, right? Like there had been no forensic here, like done by police either. Like, if I recall correctly, too. Like, even over time, like it was just the case was just going cold. And over time, Kenley's case was actually added to a rewards program here. So this was with a reward of 150,000 for any information leading to the arrest and conviction of the person or persons responsible for the disappearance of Alan Kenley Matheson. So when this was offered up here, now this was just due to hopes of like bringing some new light onto an already dark fucking case. So this reward here is payable in Canadian funds, and if anybody has any info, they can call the number and try to figure it out. 1-888-710-9090. So if anybody thinks of something, give the number a dingle. Something wicked small, like, can be turned into something really big, folks. You never know, right? And maybe someday the family can get some answers in this matter, like Kenley's mother, Sarah. Like, she says not a day goes by that she doesn't think of her son. Like, it drives me crazy, she says. Like, where could he go? What happened? Like, she mentioned, like, that things don't add up, right? Like, that's what she said here in this article here. She has faith that somebody someday is going to break with that vital piece of information here. So, this will help them find out what happened to their son. Now, during the course of like the investigation and everything, nothing was really making any headway with the local police here. Now, I wanted to touch base here. Like the RCMP weren't really involved at the beginning because it was like Wolfville Police and not the RCMP, right? So it was just local. But like there was nothing to get the RCMP in. It was just a missing persons case here. Now, over time, a private investigator was hired by Sarah too, just to get the ball rolling here and find out what had happened to Kenley. Now, there was another sighting here. This was back in the fall of '93 here. There was a friend of Kenley's cousin who had made claims of meeting Kenley, but he didn't know if it was him at the time. It was brought up in a conversation while waiting in line at a bar in Halifax. So it had been mentioned to the cousin here a few days later. It was brought to his attention that Kenley had been missing roughly about a year later, and nobody knew his whereabouts. But this guy got to talking to him here. The guy tried to figure out, like, hey, I seen your cousin, right? And then he says, what's up, whatever kind of thing, right? So the guy was, like, a little thrown off. Like, he didn't know which cousin it was. And then he got to thinking, like, hey, Kenley, my cousin, has been missing. And he showed this guy, like, a photo of him. And he's like, yeah, that was the guy. But nothing's ever came from it since. Like, I don't know. Just a lot of shit went on through this case. Like, even Todd Barker changing his facts around, right? Like, I don't know. The whole statement was written there. Like, it was the Monday. I don't know why things were changing that, right? But I know there was like mention of like the whole thing about some resident meetings there that would have been held on Sundays, so like that would have been the time that he would have brought the resident papers to Kenley, right? Because stuff happened on Sunday, not the Monday, right? But you think you wouldn't get your days mixed up, right? But all these hardships and everything that the family has faced over these past 32 years, like there were a lot of people in and out of this case over the years, right? Like there were a lot of people doing this case originally, and I didn't think that like I would dive as deep into this case as I did, like explore all the avenues, all the motives and all that I did without the people involved in this case, like all the family stuff here, like chatting with Kayreen and everything. Like it's been amazing to try to get this on the go and try to spread awareness for her, right? And the family, mind you. Like it's really cool that you guys allowed me to cover this case, and I'm really hoping that something does come from this too. Like even talking to Paul Coleman here, like to get his aspect on the story here, like we would learn some stuff about Kenley on his trip to hiking and whatnot, because they were going from the United States over to the Amazon rainforest and stuff, right? And Kayreen was totally awesome about that, because I kind of watched the documentary and I thought that like Paul Coleman didn't get uh like a good enough segment. Like that would have been a whole avenue to explore, right? Like to figure out like what his actions were and how he kind of held himself through traveling and shit, right? So Kayreen ended up hopping on with me to do the part on that with Paul. Now the first time we did it, the audio was not the best. Like, I got a bunch of echoing and whatnot throughout that, but I did edit it the best I can. So like it's 75% better than what it was. There was words you couldn't make out that you can now make out. It's a little distorted, so I'll pop that up after this episode's published. And like Paul was part of the story that I felt didn't get any recognition when I was researching all of this. Now I'm glad that we were able to speak. I reached out to him, like I emailed him, then we got back and forth, and then we eventually did a phone call. And then we would chat back and forth trying to line something up. And Kayreen needed time as well, so I mean that's why this took me a little bit, but it was a pleasure working with you both. Like all that you guys have done over the years to try to make people still hear about it. It's awesome. Like it's an honor to try to help you guys spread awareness and get this case out here. Like I hope that it does help you guys in some way and that you're one step closer to finally getting some answers. Now, I wanted to go back to talk about a couple things here. Now, there was a search done on Melanson Mountain. Now, I want to touch base on this for a moment here, because this was another thing we're going to talk about before we wind down here. Now, there was a search on the mountain here that was conducted. So they called in the heavies, right? Now, these were Kathy and Doug Tieft. So they brought in their German Shepherd. His name was Rifle. Now, Rifle had been trained to track cadaver scents. So the smell of a dead body, mind you, and they'd be able to find this in certain areas and then track the body down. Because it would be a smell of like putrid and decaying flesh odor, right? That's what the smell would be. So after searching the area with the dog Rifle, the dog had expressed a point of interest. This was on a steep embankment near a ravine here, locally referred to as the Bear Caves. So the canine specialist here, Doug Tieft. Now, the major crime unit and him and the medical examiners had checked out this spot. So when the dog had found this area, he just tensed up, and then he kind of barked to confirm indication of this, that there's something located in this area. But where the dog was going, it was really dangerous terrain. Like the dog could get over that way easily enough, but for a human, no, it would have been sketch central, right? Because it was hard to get through for anybody else. And there was difficulty accessing the location here. Like Doug and the dog ended up heading on down to check this area out. Like they went another way. and the dog showed a high interest in one location around this area. He ended up like sniffing into like some crevices of some rocks and such, right? So he kind of dug deep. So this dog had moved to the right side of that spot, and he had like a mild expression of interest. And then he seemed frustrated that he couldn't pinpoint an exact location. Then he roamed back up the bank in an attempt to reach the overhang that he had just kind of climbed down from. But like this whole area here was a spot of interest, right? There could be something there. So if this dog was trained to smell like cadaver scents, obviously there was something in this area that was making him act the way that he acted. Now, sometime later, a second search was done here, and Rifle returned to the same exact spot. And now there's a wait for forensics to get a team down there to check this shit out. Now, there was an indication that there was human remains at this very spot, and there's been fuck all done about this area since. Now, the whole family just has to wait and then see how this all shakes down, because this whole thing here, like the unsolved cases program that I mentioned, like you would think that with there being a high possibility of remains at this location that was close to where the area that Kenley had disappeared from, that the cops would sit back, they'd reassess things, and they'd try to figure out a game plan to go fucking down there and check it out and see if this is Kenley's remains that are down there. But no, they're just gonna mess around with it here. Now, currently, when I mentioned the unsolved cases program, so when Kenley was added to that, now there's currently 63 cases that are unsolved on there. Nobody has gained any money, like any reward money from this, since the program was launched here back in October of 2006. So the Justice Department has never paid out a reward. Now today there's still like a shit ton of theories around this whole case. It seems that this investigation just stalled, and nobody is investigating this site anymore. You'd think that since they got the authorization from the owner of the property to search this area, like they would find something or do something more than what they did, because like they literally took a specific dog to a place of interest that was just handed to them on a silver fucking platter. The dog here found an interesting spot where something could be, and they just fucking pussy out. You know, they never do anything with it going forward, right? I don't know. I'm hoping that even with the 5-part documentary that was brought out, like, in this episode here, maybe, like, I don't know, it's just gotta get more info out there, right? Maybe this will actually pique some interest, and more people will take notice, and something will actually be done about this. I don't know. When they got this info here, like, they did dick around with it. Like, I can just imagine, like, how frustrating all this can be. And it just pisses me off. Like, they give all this information, like a number to call for info, for cases, all this stuff to reference. Then you call in, you give some information, you fucking tell them about, like, all this whole bear cave stuff, and they're like, yeah, we'll go check it out. Couple fucking hours. You'd think if roles were reversed, right? Like, it was somebody in the police's family or something, that maybe they'd shake a leg at it or something. They get the lead out of their ass faster, right? And it just becomes like, it was just because like of some steep terrain that they were gonna need a little bit of safety precautions. So they're just gonna pussyfoot around with the whole case here for a bit. Now, because they're gonna get some people to go down there, they're gonna do some precautions, but still, this hasn't been done yet. You'd think that they would think of a way to get down there, check things out properly, bring a dog with them, let them go sniff everywhere around there, and then you know for sure if this area is good to go, if you found something, or if it's just another fucking dead end. But, like, based on all this information obtained here, like the RCMP, when they were making plans to go down and everything here, based on the information obtained, the RCMP were making plans to to go down here the most effective way to process this site and be thorough and safe. It probably takes a long time to get police back up there, right? Like, you'd have to get the search done. You'd have to figure out where to go from there, how to get down there, and then all, like, the family wants is Kenley's remains to be brought back home. So until this thing kicks back into high gear and the mountain is searched more thoroughly in that spot, everybody's just going to play the stupid waiting game. It sucks because the family's been waiting 32 years now. And why would they just get, like, I don't know. That's because they never really got back to checking it all out. They just keep in contact with the family here and there going forward. They're like, oh, well, we thank them for their cooperation throughout this investigation, but what have you really investigated? Nothing. And you, like, I don't know. And they had to hire a whole private-ass investigator because the police weren't looking into it properly. Like, think about that for one sec here. Now, there's a few other things here, too. Like, there was a family that had reached out in 2016. Now, they had information suggesting that Kenley was murdered by a member of their family. Now, I'll touch on that here quick. Now, there were relatives of a trans woman named Erin Smith. Now, her former name was Jason Kenny. Now, he was also a student back in Acadia when Kenley had disappeared. So this was before, like, his whole transgender transformation thing. So this family had made claims that Jason confessed killing Kenley, and he was disposed of in a cave up in Melanson Mountain. Now, Melanson here is up in Kings County, Nova Scotia. There were claims from the other side of the family here that Kenley had been dumped up in some chicken pit here. This would have been on a poultry farm that was owned by the Kenny family. So this was also looked into by police, and the family also went up there too. Like, I think Kayleen went up there to check everything out at the chicken farm here. But no evidence was found at the property. There was nothing here down on the mountain. And they didn't look at that anymore, right? They disregarded all that here. Like, police went through the area and everything. Like, it was located only a few kilometers from, like, Main Street in Wolfville, where Kenley was last seen. Like, I don't know, you'd think there'd be something up there. Now, Kenley's mom was alongside the road here near the whole search thing up on the mountain here. And there was a big mobile command center that was set up on location up on the mountain here. This was Melanson Mountain Road here. This was by the H Division Mobile Command Center. So, like, the police set all this up. Here was a big division command place. So this was where they would work from, right? So inside this, they had, like, some workstations, some other police equipment to help with the search. Unfortunately, even though the cadaver dog had indicated this place as a site of interest, police did not locate any human remains on this site, and there wasn't any evidence pointing in that direction. Now, the search had even included, like, several, like, Nova Scotia medical examiners. There was also, like, the St. Thomas University, the Anthropology Department, Acadia University, Environmental Science was there. And this is just where we're at, folks, until something else breaks in the case here. So, yeah, I guess until we hear some updates here, I hope this time around that something comes from this for everybody, like, because this case is now a 32-year-old mystery of a case, and this needs to be solved eventually. And the reason that police couldn't go onto the property there, like, to get permission or whatever prior to finding the owner, because the property owner has a legal right to privacy. Now, police aren't allowed to walk on private property or anything, because it might further an investigation without the property owner's permission, or not obtaining, like, a warrant or anything to search around, right? Like, if they go on the thing without property permission, they don't have a warrant, even if there is suggestion or, like, evidence of a crime that has been committed, any evidence that is now found of a crime being committed could be inadmissible in court if not obtained. legally. And like there's some speculation here, like some other stuff by like some other members of the family here, like her aunts and uncles, they have a suspicion that surrounded a poultry farm. The owners of the Kenley family, there was like a big ass chicken pit. So this is where like they put dead chickens and whatever else, right? Now they had a huge farm and had a bunch of barns full of chickens. So they dispose of like all the chickens here in this big hole located on the farm. Now, there was tale here that Kenley had been buried here, so the family gave like the police the info, the spot to search, they took a dog, and all they did was search this spot for like a little over an hour, and nothing was found on the Kenny property or the Melanson Mountain. Now, both searches had failed to show up any evidence, and just dead end after dead end, and when nobody else like wanted to do anything about this here, like nobody else had any answers, they just, I mean, it was just dead end after dead end, when all anybody wants is just some answers to put their minds at ease. And I hope you guys do get this very soon, and I hope that this episode helps you in some way. Everybody has been a pleasure to deal with, like to speak with on this. I really hope that I covered everything in this episode here properly. So the family was updated on the search and not locating any evidence, and they plan to keep in touch with the family. If anything else comes into play with anything like moving forward with the case's direction here, like they'll give them a call, but they thank them for their concern and everything and their cooperation and everything. Now, if anybody has any info on this, it can be called in at 902-365-3120. So this is to the major crimes unit here. So you can reference the number 2011-136-2024. You can either submit tips online or at canadamissing.ca. Like there's a million theories here that can surround this case. And it sucks that nobody has the balls to come up and say like they know what happened. Because it's been too long of a wait for the family here. I don't know, they haven't seen or heard from this guy again since that day, man. And like there's been no activity on his bank account, his stuff on the dorm, anything like that. Like there was cash left back at his dorm. You know the guy wasn't going anywhere, right? And even like the whole dorm room, like it looked lived in. Didn't look like he was going anywhere because like he had his passport, everything else. No bags were packed. All his toiletries and all that shower stuff was there. Like there was some stuff taken, mind you, but what do you do here? But Kenley's sister has never given up on him here. Like she never lets him be forgotten. Now she runs events that are like part of the Bring Kenley Home mission. Now there's a virtual mission portion here that requires people to travel the distance from Acadia University to Cape Breton Island, which is like 327 kilometers. And all of this is done before September 5th, which marks the day that they both started university. Now, people can track their distance and progress made on an app. Now, this app is called myvirtualmission.com. So you can check this out. You can do all the kilometers that Kenley did and everything. So people can either walk, bike, run, or treadmill to monitor their all their distance here, so they can complete their distance by either of those ways. Now there's also an in-person portion of this mission too. So this combines the way that he himself had explored the country and beyond. Now, this was after he graduated high school that he did all like the walking, the hitchhiking, the motorcycling, everything, right? Because that was his time for himself. Now, July 6th, the first day, this consists of like a 15-kilometer walk. The second day involves a simulated planned hitchhike. Like, so volunteers will actually pick up the hitchhikers, like the participant hitchhikers, along the route and then drive them around. Now, the third involves a motorcycle and a car rally. Now, this will end in Port Hawkesbury, Nova Scotia. And yeah, that's it, folks. Well, I'd like to thank you very much for tuning back into Twisted Tales. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I hope this was really informative, and I hope this goes somewhere for you guys, because Well, even though this is my show, this is your guys' episode, so thank you very much for allowing me to cover this and try to help you guys, and thank you very much for jumping on with me onto the show, and I'm gonna set that up here and get that all edited up, and I'll put this all together. And that, folks, is the disappearance of Kenley Matheson. So I hope you guys got some information about this case, and just share it all around social media. Like, share the shit out of this and get it known to places that don't know about it. You know, spread awareness on it. Maybe this can reach somebody back home in the area and they can finally get some answers or something, right? I hope that something does come from this. So, I want to thank everybody for tuning back into Twisted Tales here, and this episode here was why I've been a little busy this week, so I hope you guys enjoy. And as always, I'll post a couple news interview clips here that I found online here that I thought were pretty interesting that I wanted to add. So I want to thank the family for letting me do this. Kayreen, I hope this is up to your standards. And other than that, guys, everything's been cool, and I hope you guys like it. Thanks for tuning back in, guys.
September 20th, 2012 will mark the 20th year since my son, Kenley Matheson, went missing from Acadia University in Wolfville, Nova Scotia. Adding Kenley to the Nova Scotia Department of Justice site for missing and murdered persons here in Nova Scotia is one more step in this investigation of the circumstances surrounding Kenley's disappearance, which I initiated in 2010. Today, Kenley's family, Alan, Myrtle, Kayreen, and Sarah, are pleading for anyone that has any information whatsoever in regards to Kenley's case that may help shed light on the circumstances of what happened to Kenley in 1992, to please bring that information forward. We strongly believe that there are people with knowledge of the disappearance and probable homicide of Kenley, and that information would help resolve what happened the 20th day of September in 1992. I'm urging anyone with knowledge of Kenley's disappearance to reflect on what they know from our family's perspective and realize that their input could be key in resolving what happened to Kenley.
A group huddle of more than a dozen people before embarking on a walk.
It has been very difficult. Kenley and I were very close. We started at Acadia together.
It's just this feeling there all the time in your gut that this is not right and there's something missing.
Kenley Matheson and his sister Kayreen started studying at Acadia University nearly 31 years ago, in September of '92.
And then within 2 weeks, he disappeared without a trace.
Since then, his family has been searching for answers, trying to figure out where he is and what happened.
He did not just take off. Somebody knows what happened to Kenley.
A docuseries titled Missing Kenley was produced for the case, but it's been an exhausting 3 decades for the family.
Extremely frustrating, especially with timelines and expecting something to happen within a period of time, and, it just goes so slow.
That's part of why Thursday's walk was important.
It is something that we felt we had to do to take his spirit home from Wolfville. So it is something that, with a missing person, it is very difficult journey because you don't have that, whatever people say often, you don't have that closure.
The family says RCMP is putting together a team to investigate a wooded area several kilometers from the university, following up on a possible new lead. No one from the RCMP was available for an interview today, but a spokesperson tells me an update on the case could be coming next week. But for Matheson's family,
we're very happy about these recent developments. We're very hopeful. It's very healing. We're just very hopeful that this is something that we can hopefully find his remains. That is the ultimate goal at this point. It's going on 31 years, so that is just, we're just hoping and praying that this is it.
Twisted Tales.